as the Jamtara tagline says, sabka number aayega. So you could be the most practical person, you could be the most technically savvy person, a good decision maker as well. You're going to fall in trouble.
Nirali Bhatia is one of India's leading cyber psychologists and practicing psychotherapist, recognized for her work in tackling online harassment and bullying. With over 20 years of experience in the IT sector and 10 years into human behavior analysis, she has provided counseling to countless victims and has spoken at international platforms like UNICEF, the UN, and TEDx.
Can you tell us what these romance scams are?
Victims are targeted on social media. Largely, the victims of romance scams are single women but established, financially settled women.
Okay.
They will profile those women. They'll start befriending. The victim gets a call from customs officer saying that
These can be quite long drawn out, it seems. Like
Yes.
it's not just something where in the next week your money is gone. It can be over months and years.
they directly go for a big shot. It's not like they will
Okay.
ask you repeatedly money.
And in your experience, what are the kinds of an amount that one particular person may have lost?
The first victim that I was working with, she was a woman. The first time she lost 45 lakhs. She lost another 35 lakhs. Later, the third time, it was 60 lakhs.
So that means even minors are being targeted for financial scams.
Oh, a lot.
So Nirali, I want to start off with romance scams because we've heard a lot about this, but can you tell us a little bit in detail of what these scams are and how that can lead to financial fraud?
As the name says, it involves romance. So primarily the victims are targeted on social media. Largely the victims of romance scams are single women but established, financially settled women, because eventually the objective of the scammer is money. So they will profile those women, they'll start befriending, and they will actually choose the profile who are single, who are looking for partnership, and they'll just fill in every gap that woman is looking for in her partner.
Right.
And these scammers, they really invest a lot of time in their victims. Win your trust, that's the key over here.
Okay.
They will say exactly what you want to hear, and as we all know that love makes you blind, deaf, everything.
Right.
You basically are not thinking logically, you're only operating from your emotions. And they will keep on making you feel nice. They'll make a promise that, I'm looking at spending rest of my life with you. I want to wrap up my business, come across to your country or to your city. That's one modus operandi. Or the other one is that I want to send you something very expensive.
Okay.
Or I want to send you a lot of dollars, or I want to send you jewelry, etc. And then typically we've seen in romance scams that the victim gets a call from customs officer saying that somebody who's traveling and coming here is carrying either a lot of illegal currency beyond the limit which you can carry, or some goods. They don't know anyone else in your country, so you need to pay up certain fines so that we can allow. So while you are very optimistic that this person has left everything back and come here for me, so you'll say, "ठीक है, इतना तो मैं दे ही देती हूँ." So they'll start paying up money. And it doesn't end there. Then there's one officer, then there's another officer, then there's another formality. But at the same time, the scamster always keeps telling you, baby, just this much. This is the last. Imagine we'll have our life together. So this is very typical of a romance scam.
Okay.
So investment of time is very long. I've had victims where they believed that they have been in relationship with this scamster for more than 2 years.
Oh.
So it is even this long that they wait. In fact, one of the oldest client of mine, I choose to call them clients and not victims, is 82-year-old gentleman who fell prey to a romance scam.
Okay.
Single, he lost his wife, children are settled in outside country. It's always nice to find somebody who wants to talk to you, who wants to give you time and attention, and this is exactly what these scamsters actually exploit. So they win their trust. And
your deepest vulnerabilities.
Yes.
Okay, so these can be quite long drawn out, it seems. Like it's not just something where today someone befriends you, online and then next week your money is gone. It can be over months and years.
Yes.
And I guess repeatedly they'll keep asking you for money based on different reasons. And over a year you can be sending money to somebody who's just defrauding you.
In romance scams, so far what we have seen is that they directly go for a big shot. It's not like they will ask you repeatedly money. It would be in terms, you would be surprised that they also send you money. It's all part of winning your trust.
Okay. And in your experience, what are the kinds of amounts? Can you tell us maybe an amount that one particular person may have lost through a scam like this?
The first victim that I was working with, she was a woman, and she fell prey to this scam 3 times.
Oh.
The first time she lost 45 lakhs. After some years, when she wanted to give love another chance, unfortunately she fell victim once again, and that was the time she lost another 35 lakhs. But later, the third time, it was 60 lakhs.
God, so over a crore, just gone.
And the gentleman I was talking to, 82 lakhs to be precise.
Yeah, so these are large amounts that people are giving away, on the hope of love and companionship. So Nirali, can you tell us a little bit about maybe a very successful trick that scamsters would use to find and reel their victims in?
So while there are many tricks, but the most widely used and successful, easily successful is something that we call as social engineering. So a lot of these scamsters, they use social engineering to befriend you, and in that entire, put you in a comfort zone where very naturally you will start sharing information. So while social engineering is not a new phenomena, it was an age-old phenomena. So to give you an example, let's say we are traveling in a public transport. We happen to start speaking to somebody who's sitting next to us. We get into a conversation. Now, if that person has a malicious intent, during that conversation, when they make you feel comfortable, they will start asking you for your personal information. Where do you stay? And what's your number, this, that. But in a physical environment, it is very easy for us to identify these cues. However, when we are in the cyberspace, our communication is completely digital. So all these cues that are missing, in terms which tell us that what is happening over here is social engineering, and you are giving more than required information and more susceptible information as such.
Right.
So to give you an example, like I was telling you that let's say in a public transport you are going, and while you got this. Now the moment somebody in that conversation and of that comfort time asks you for a very, very personal information that are you married, or do you have what's your number or your bank account, etc. You will have those many cues in terms of you are seeing that person, you are listening to his tone, which will tell your brain that yes, is it a green flag or is it a red flag. But when we are doing all of this online, all these cues of real world are missing.
So would you say our brains are not wired to pick these cues up in cyberspace?
They are not, right? Digital era or this whole evolution has just come in. So yes, with the newer generation, their wiring is changing, but for us, we are still from that generation, or the way originally a human brain was wired to understand the communication, to understand the right cues in a certain ways. So in a physical environment where we have our visual senses, which is going to tell us is this person looking safe or not. Auditory, where the tone tells us that what is the intent, we can gauge a little. Our gut is at play. But in an online conversation, all these cues are missing. All what we are doing is in terms of texting, which is based on how we are feeling. So we are not looking at the cues from the other end because we can't see beyond the screen.
So there's obviously some organization that's gone into this because they're profiling people, as you said. And each different type of cyber scam will have a different profile that they target based on what they're trying to get?
So there are 2 types of cyber criminals. When we talk of scams, yes, they are organized and they have a modus operandi and it's like a profession or an established business, I can say. But nevertheless, there are also individual cyber scamsters, fraudsters, criminals, whatever you want to call them. They could also be doing that. So one of the cases where I worked on and we got success in terms of nabbing that cyber criminal, is a very interesting case that I would like to share.
Yeah.
So this here the victim was a young man, I think in his early 30s, and he met somebody on Facebook, and they started talking, and they kind of fell in love, and this entire relationship online went on for more than 9-10 months.
Okay.
They also used to do video calls. So there would be a girl, and they're talking, and it was all fine, but it didn't work out for some reason, and then this guy got married and he started disconnecting. After a few months of his marriage, he again got a ping from that same profile, and for the old time's sake, he started talking again. And this was the time he was, again lured into doing a video call, and he happened to strip in front, and that's where the whole game changed. This is now after 1.5 to 2 years of engagement, and then it was an extortion that went on. Now in this case, of course, this guy gathered courage and he decided to pursue it as a police case, because in such cases victims also have to bear the burden of judgments, guilt, fear, shame, and he was very recently married as well. But he decided to put that brave foot front, and so now when they nabbed the guy the fraudster, it was never a woman. It was always a guy, and this scammer was like a mid-20s young boy who was doing this for last 3 years, and his reason of doing this was to sustain his own relationship, because his pocket money was not enough for his girlfriend.
Wow.
So why I'm highlighting this is that it's not necessary that it is always only an organized crime. It is also, so at the same time he was talking to at least 6 to 7 guys, and when we asked him that why are you doing, you're a boy, you could easily trap a woman, it's like women only cry, men pay up quietly. That is the reason I only make sure to target. And then we asked him that who on the video call was a girl. So like, no, they are the actors who I hire.
Oh, okay.
And then I asked him that why did you wait for so long? That you knew him, you all were in an active relationship according to the victim. Why did you not hit at that time? He was like, I didn't have that something where he would pay up without creating any stress for either of us.
He needed some leverage, and he got that when he...
So yes, and then he's like, now I knew, because he's married. He's not going to let that ruin his life. Yes.
Okay. Another very interesting point that you made was, someone, a client or victim who was targeted 3 times and fell a victim 3 times. Sometimes we feel that, if it happens to you once, then it won't happen to you again. There's a sense of complacency. But do you see that this re-victimization happens quite a lot?
No, it's not so often, but there is a possibility. It's the nature of this online world that it brings in that disinhibition effect. Which is where we see it's a world without boundaries. It's not a tangible world. First, if it was told to us that, keep your account private, that's your safety measure. Or if you see somebody whose profile is just 3 days old, that's your red flag. But today that's not the case. Somebody will come and say that, okay, my previous account got hacked, so I had to do this, but you can check my other social media. So even the cues are changing, and that's what is making it very difficult for people to identify that, is this a red flag? Is this danger?
Yeah.
So that's where the challenge is.
Interesting. So Nirali, one question I had is, why do people fall for these financial scams or frauds, and what are the psychological aspects of processes involved?
So cyberspace is a very, very emotionally triggering place, and most of the times we are falling prey to these financial scams and frauds because of a lot of psychological factors which are at the play. Most of these scamsters, they kind of exploit on 3 innate human needs, So one is the greed. They're going to present it like immediate lottery, immediate winning, big winning.
So you'll double your money in 1 week, 1 month, 1 day.
Yes. And the way they say it, it also triggers an optimism bias in you. That मेरे साथ गलत नहीं होगा, nothing bad is going to happen to me because I have been, so far successful, etc. and all. Then the second need is about FOMO. It is about we don't want to be left out in what's trending. It is about that if the whole world is earning money from this, like the crypto sensation that we hear it that so many people have made so much money, then we don't want to be left out.
So we feel there's a financial opportunity to gain big time, and we don't want to miss that
So this is what the scamsters leverage upon.
Yeah.
That they will present it to you that, you know, ma'am, this person has done and he won so much, and this person has done and he's won so much. So again, the conformity bias triggers over here. That yes, I do believe that people have won because I have also read it. So it is kind of resonating to my belief, and now I'm ready to take a risk over here. And since it's an emotionally triggering place, the last decision that we make is not from all our logical and analytical reasoning ability ki haan, I have read all the documents, I've understood all that. It's just that let me try it.
Right.
And that is what they exactly leverage.
It's an emotionally driven decision.
Yes. And the third aspect is, again, it comes back to trust, but it is this time in terms of exploiting the lack of technical know-how confidence. So they will tell you that I will do it for you.
Right.
Just follow my instructions. That is where they will push in that, you know, I'm going to ask you to download this software so I can see your screen so that you don't make mistake. So what emotionally they are targeting is your trust, but technically they are also leveraging on your lack of technical know-how confidence.
Right.
So these are the three areas which very largely each and every scamster or a fraudster will target.
So if there's an investment scam, let's say a Ponzi scheme, then someone may say, I'll do it for you, give me access to your accounts.
Yes.
And you feel you were talking about, I think, the authority bias.
Yeah.
And I think that also comes into play here, where you feel this person knows what they're doing, let me give them access.
Correct. So authority bias normally works when they are going to use reputed brand names.
Okay.
So for example, we've got clients who have complained about saying that, you know, they get these calls from loan. So it would be from very reputed brands. I mean, I don't want to name the brands, but this one is offering loan, this bank is offering loan. So now when they use these certain big names, brand names or names which have reputation attached, that's where that authority bias kicks in, that all right, if they are saying, then it will be that I better comply to it kind of. So it's a mix of various psychological factors, which is what they leverage upon, and we are victimized using.
Yeah, I know. I mean, speaking about family members, my mother and father and me, but my mother and father were both targeted for different scams. My father for the FedEx scam, and my mother for the what was it? I think an SMS-based scam where they said, someone wants to send you money, I've sent you too much by mistake, so please send me this much money back. And what got her was the fact that they said, this is your name, this is your, I don't know what, PAN number, these are your, you know, bank account details, and it builds that authority and it builds that trust.
And trust, yes. See, we as individuals or we as organizations are leaving our footprints everywhere on internet. Our lives have become so internet driven that even if it is as simple as ordering your grocery or daily milk dose, everything comes online. The moment you go online, you start with leaving your footprints. It starts with your name, email, number, address. So making it hyper personalized has become very easy for these scamsters because they are getting so much of data on us. And when they make it hyper personalized, it becomes very difficult to think from a technical aspect because they are not talking technology. So most of the times you will see that, you know, or rather I would say very often am I asked that, is it some type of people who are victimized largely online or people who have, who are more emotional? Or I would say no. In fact, you know, as the Jamtara tagline says, sabka number aayega. So it's not like specifically only this kind of people get. It is the specific type of emotional state of mind. If you enter cyberspace in an extreme emotional state of mind, whether it is extreme joy, extreme sorrow, at that point of time, your reasoning and logical ability is at the bottommost. You are operating from a very, very feeling state, and that is what makes you very vulnerable. So you could be the most practical person, you could be the most technically savvy person, and most you know, a good decision maker as well. But if you are taking that action in an emotionally extreme state of mind, or a disturbed emotional or a distressful state of mind, you're going to fall in trouble.
So in other words, my education doesn't matter, my work success doesn't matter. I may be rich and famous and successful, but I can still just as easily fall for a...
Yes.
I've heard about cyberbullying, but can you explain a little bit about what it is and how that's related to financial scams or fraud?
If you are bullying someone, they are already in a very, very emotionally devastated state, and now in that state, if there is a message that goes to them that, you know, click over here and do this, they are very, very likely to be more vulnerable to these kind of phishing scams, or where, you know, the criminals are using social engineering all the time. So that is where the interdependencies. It's also that bullying, usually the topmost motive is exhibition of power, but the second broadest driving factor today is financial gain. Most of the times, like I said, we use the term bullying when it is the victim who's under 18, so it's young children.
Yeah.
Now most of them are victimized either on social media platforms or gaming apps.
Okay.
Largely on gaming apps, it eventually leads to financial gains.
So that means even minors are being targeted for financial scams?
Oh, a lot. So one of the cases that I worked on, where the victim was a very young boy, I guess 10 or 11 years old, and he was being bullied on a gaming app, and he was being threatened that if you don't listen to what I say, I am going to nudify your mom's picture and circulate. Now you can imagine the kind of burden and the pressure and the fear that this young child is.
Yeah.
So this bully or the scamster would guide that child that, and go get your parents' credit card. This is where you enter. This is how you do, and that's how they.
So they're making the kids steal from their parents.
Yes.
To pay them.
Yes, and it's not just parents; it's also grandparents.
Oh. So let's say, you know, I've been a victim and I've lost 1 lakh rupees through some sort of financial scam. Now that, I guess, causes some mental anguish. You keep blaming yourself, oh, it was my fault, etc. Now, from a psychological perspective, how can I get over that mental anguish of being a victim and then move to try and actually get my money back?
It's not easy, is what I would start with. So there are a lot of factors at play. If you have fallen prey to a scam, which is being spoken about a lot, it is still easier because you are going to speak about it, and you'll say, okay, oh, you know, it was my bad luck, even I fell prey to it. We have to figure out different ways. But emotionally, what it does to you, or rather psychologically, what it does to you, the first and the foremost factor is fear. Then comes shame, anxiety, guilt, depending on the type of scam or how you have fallen prey. If it is bullying, then fear and anxiety are very, very high, and it takes a lot of time for these victims to actually get over what has happened and start trusting and doing the same things. When it comes to romance scams, it is not just that you lose money, but you've also going through a betrayal. Loss of trust, and it's very difficult to overcome that. And now here it is loss of trust, not only in love and that another human, but it's also technology. Your lack of trust on that particular platform. But and the irony is that how long can you stay without it? Let's say if some scam has happened through UPI. How much would you avoid using UPI? We are living in a world where it has become the most common way of, you know, transacting. So it is very difficult. Then again comes a stage where you accept and you break down. That it was me who did this, I was stupid, this, that, the shame and guilt and all of this. And after that, with good support, comes a way to recovery. So this is usually the cycle that even the victims of financial scams go through.
So eventually they have to realize that it's not their fault and that they've, like other people, have been prey to something.
Yes. So in fact, I can say that we more than 30% of the victims are on the verge of or either have already crossed the line and started feeling paranoid.
Okay.
They constantly live in that fear that, somebody is after them, they may be victimized again, somebody is listening to their conversations, somebody is keeping an eye, or somebody has bugged their devices, etc. So for them, going back to a normal life
Right.
is a way long journey.
Understandable, especially for minors and in the case of bullying.
And it's not just minors, it has also happened to seniors, it
Yeah.
has also happened to youth.
From an individual's perspective or from a family's perspective, can you maybe tell us 3 useful tips that we can use in our everyday lives to protect ourselves from cyber scams?
Sure. Again, I will call out the point that please remember that cyberspace is a psychological space. So over here, you have to be cognitively very aware of what you are doing. So number 1 rule, do not make any important decisions, as in clicking decisions. When I
Okay.
talk of decision in online world is where you're going to click something, you're
right.
going to transact or anything during the night time. And I'll explain why. See, human mind is programmed or rather designed, and to a large extent from the sun and moon cycle. During the daytime, our logical and reasoning ability is much more at its best. And as the sun settles, our ability also, and we start operating more from emotions. So the moon cycle is more emotional cycle, and that is why you will see a lot of these crimes also happen during the night time, especially when they are all social engineering related crimes or trust and emotion related crimes. Secondly, when you are in an emotionally extreme state of mind, whether it is extreme elation or extreme sorrow, stay away from cyberspace. That's not the place to enter. Like so many other places, when we are unwell, we don't do certain things, right? So same way, I'm not saying you have to be emotionally unwell. Any extreme form where you are not stable emotionally, stay away from internet space totally, because you will not have that control on your own mind and the triggers, and you will not be able to judge them that these are the cues and these are my red flags. And thirdly, never ever shy away to take a pause. There is no urgency in cyberspace. It's not a physical space where somebody is practically dying or somebody is at that risk.
Yeah.
Always pause, do your check. So basically zero trust is what we can say.
Makes sense. Okay.
Yeah. So emotionally, these are the factors. If you can remember, then it really works.
Yeah, that's very helpful, especially the nighttime versus daytime. That had never even crossed my mind. And when I think back now, I think I do most of my financial transactions at night. And so maybe that's something I need to change.
See, when we are operating out of emotions, we look for familiarity. So the transactions where you are going to do in a similar manner, you will, because at that time our ability to handle the cognitive load is very low. So if you are bombarded with so much information, you'll be like, forget it, I'm feeling exhausted and tired. Either you will make a wrong decision, wrong click somewhere, or you should withdraw and say, I will do it later.
Okay.
So that is.
All right. So Nirali, thank you so much for spending time with us and sharing your knowledge. It's been extremely helpful.
Most welcome. I hope this is going to help us stay a step ahead of cyber criminals for sure.
Yeah. Thank you for watching this episode of Temperament. We hope you enjoyed the conversation. If you like this sort of content, please hit the subscribe button and share this video with your friends. We'll see you in the next episode.